The biggest risks facing an organization are not always hidden. Often people already know what they are. The problem starts when that knowledge does not travel. When frontline concerns fail to reach decision makers, when people see the warning signs yet do not feel empowered to act, and when organizations rely on risk frameworks and numbers without examining the behavior around them. But this is where an obvious risk can become a serious failure. Welcome back. You're listening to Risk Masters, the download, where I share bite-sized insights from our conversations with leaders, thinkers, shaping the way we approach risk, resilience, and decision-making. In this episode, I'm revisiting my conversation with Michele, the author of the Gray Rhino and You Are What You Risk. The Gray Rhino describes a high-impact, high-probable risk that is already visible, and Michele makes an important point in this conversation. Most organizations do not need someone to tell them what the Gray Rhinos are. They usually already know. The real challenge is understanding why those risks remain underaddressed. In this extract, we explore what happens when information does not move effectively through an organization, why psychological safety matters to risk management, and why quantitative frameworks alone cannot tell leaders whether people will actually respond to the signals in front of them. The discussions also moves beyond organizations to consider how risk can be mispriced across financial markets, public policy, and the wider society. How do you help decision makers to identify, and more importantly, to address under-addressed risks and challenges, probably perhaps at macro level and certainly within their organizations?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a struggle for me, to be honest, because one of the first things people ask when they come to me is, okay, help us identify the gray rhinos. And I have to say, you don't need me to identify them. You already know what they are. I can talk to you about my insights on how maybe some of the global gray rhinos might affect the things that you already know. But what we're really here to do is to take a fresh look at those, to be brutally honest about your response. But it's like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, when the good witch tells her, close your eyes and click your heels and just picture it. It's like that with the gray rhinos. So I always have to preface my answer to what are the gray rhinos with that you know what they are and you know them better than I do, whether it's in your company, it's a succession plan, whether it's a culture issue, whether it's competitive pressures, whether it's finance and liquidity, whether it's a policy or regulatory thing. People pretty much know. Although often companies have a disconnect between the people at the top and the frontline workers and everybody in between. There have been a couple of situations recently where people have said, if you had gone just, one or two rungs further down the corporate ladder, you would have been paying much more attention to this. So one of the things is to encourage companies to create, as you mentioned before, this atmosphere of psychological safety, to create the channels that allow them to hear what they need to hear from everyone. Gray rhino theory is appropriate for everyone from the CEO and the board all the way down to the frontline workers, and there should be a flow of information back and forth. I help people to think about the different stakeholders, both people who are affected by whatever gray rhino is on their mind, also the people with the power to change it, the relationship between that gray rhino and other gray rhinos, helping them to really apply an analytical framework to the obvious dangers that are in front of them, so that instead of being the people who ignore them and get trampled, they are the ones who use the strength and realize that the people who recognize the gray rhino and use its strength are the ones that are going to create value and come out ahead. Because if they don't, their competitors might. But whoever recognizes the gray rhino and deals with it first is going to have the biggest advantage. So a lot of my message is really psychological and analytical, and the gray rhino itself is I think it's a tool very much as Aesop envisioned, with all of his fables using animals. It's something to focus your mind and to help you to talk about something that you might not have had the tools to speak about before.